What I want to bring to your attention in the next few moments is, I believe, the darkest of all crimes, and I must also admit the most difficult to talk about. That is sexual trafficking, or the trafficking of persons for the purpose of forced prostitution. I know of no other crime that requires such complete and utter disdain for the life of a human being as sex trafficking. And yet it is one of the fastest growing, most profitable crimes in the world, second only to drug trafficking. Long a taboo subject, sex slavery is an injustice that has recently found a voice. In the past 3 years, 3 films have been released to mainstream audiences highlighting the sex trade. Some of you may know the films Taken, Trade, and Holly. In fact, the 2006 film Holly, starring Ron Livingston, was released through Priority Films' K11 project, a comprehensive multi-film project attempting to expose the world of sex trafficking and child prostitution. There are also a number of well-made documentary films on the subject that have come out in recent years. The stories of many of these girls are the same. Many of the younger girls, ages 5 to 15, are street children who've been picked up. Others have been kidnapped from their families. Many of the older girls, ages 15 through 19, are from poor countries, largely in Eastern Europe, looking for work. Legitimate offices are set up. Ads are put in newspapers for work in the US or the European Union. These young women will meet an official-looking man or woman who will say they've found an opportunity for them. The girls are happy and excited to get out of their own desperate situation and are given papers and even a visa. They're taken somewhere far from home where they don't speak the language. They have no idea where they are. Immediately, they're starved, gang-raped, and kept in overcrowded apartments. They're told they have a debt to pay for travel expenses. Once they have gone through what is known as the breaking process, they may be sold to between 5 and 30 men a day. Those who resist are beaten mercilessly and made an example of. They are told that people are watching their families back home, and if they resist or refuse or try to escape, their families could be beaten or killed. The average woman in forced prostitution will earn her captors between $13,000 and $60,000 a year. Perhaps it doesn't seem like much until you consider the price can be as low as $10, depending on the country. As I mentioned before, human trafficking is the fastest growing criminal enterprise in the world, having recently surpassed weapons sales to become the second highest grossing. As one would expect, available statistics regarding this criminal activity are hard to come by. The United Nations and the U.S. State Department both conduct yearly investigations and compile yearly reports. According to their best estimates, up to 27 million people are being held as slaves in the world today. Of those people held in slavery and trafficked across international borders, 70% of the women and young girls are being sold into forced prostitution. 1 million children are exploited by the global commercial sex trade every year. And that number, according to UNICEF, has held steady for the last 30 years. Yes, in the last 30 years, 30 million children have been lost to sexual exploitation. Right now, the estimated profit generated every year through sex trafficking is $32 billion. $32 billion. 1 million children every year. These numbers are astronomical. One way to get your mind around it could be to think of it this way. Every minute of every day, 2 children are being sold. It's easy to think of this as a foreign problem, and it's true most kidnapped women and children are from Eastern Europe, and most of them end up in the Middle East or in Southeast Asian countries. But we in the United States are not immune. Of the foreign nationals who have been documented as being trafficked into the U.S., over 77 different countries of origin have been represented. The U.S. State Department estimates that over 17,000 foreign nationals are trafficked into our country every year, and over 200,000 women already in this country are at risk of commercial sexual exploitation. The average age of a U.S. girl's first involvement in prostitution is between the ages of 12 and 14. Obviously, the question that comes to mind is, what can I do? The scope of this issue is so great, and those who perpetrate it are so well funded and so violent and so organized that rescuing the exploited ones requires full-time, well-trained workers. But there are things you can do. Number 1, become aware of the situation, which now you are, so good job. At the end of this presentation, there will be a number of websites and organizations that you can check with regularly. Number 2, you can bring this awareness to others. Buy t-shirts, watch the films, show films to others. Instead of buying birthday or Christmas gifts, donate to an organization on behalf of another and let them know. Number 3, you can support an organization. There are different levels of involvement that organizations have. Some seek to raise awareness through various means. Others are involved in the physical rescue and rehabilitation of women caught in this nightmare. They are all nonprofit organizations. None of them make the $32 billion a year that the traffickers are making. Number 4, you can become involved with organizations that work in this area. Explore the opportunities listed on the websites. Some are looking for volunteers, especially if you live near their headquarters. Others have various ways that you can help and become involved with the organization. Number 5, contact your political leaders. Whether it be local, state, national, or international, leaders must be made aware and continue to be made aware of the issues of sexual trafficking around the world. This presentation has been around 7 minutes long. If you remember the statistic I shared earlier, while you watched this, 14 children have been sold, raped, and are awaiting the next sale. This is not a faceless crime. Every young girl, every grown woman who has been forced into prostitution has a name, a face, real tears, and real pain. What they do not have is a life of their own. And now leave you with this question. You do have a life of your own. What will you do with it?